The girl of two blessings. The night Kiola was born, the sky cracked open with thunder. Rain poured over the village of Naola like the heavens had wept. Wind howled through the trees, making the thatched roofs tremble and the fires flicker out. People stayed indoors, huddled close to their hearts, whispering that the storm was more than just weather. In the largest hut near the center of the village, a woman cried out in pain. She was giving birth. Women gathered around her, holding her hands and wiping her brow. The midwife, an old woman with skin like bark and eyes that seemed to see more than just the world around her, stood at the woman's feet. "Push," she said, "come," even as the wind screamed. Moments later, a cry louder than thunder filled the room. A baby had arrived. The old midwife, called Sia Malika by the villagers, wrapped the girl in a soft cloth and held her up. The oil lamp flickered, and for a moment, her face glowed like gold. "This child," Malika said, her voice cutting through the storm, "is marked by both light and shadow. Joy will walk beside her. But so will sorrow." The women gasped. Outside, the thunder stopped. Inside, the baby looked up with eyes that glimmered like moonlight on water, calm and knowing, even though she had just been born. Her mother named her Kiola, which meant blessing in the old tongue. Her father, Chief Baruti, had hoped for a son. But when he held the girl in his arms, something in his chest shifted. Just for a moment, he smiled. That moment would not last. Kiola grew up with grace in her steps and kindness in her voice. Her mother, Lomi, raised her with stories of wise women, of goddesses who healed and protected. Kiola listened with wide eyes and a heart full of wonder. But her father, strong and silent, trained warriors. He led the village with pride and believed daughters were meant to marry, bear sons, and bring honor through alliances. Kiola could feel the distance growing. By the time she was 10, she had learned to speak with animals and soothe crying babies. She helped elders carry baskets. Her laugh made others laugh too. But her father rarely looked at her. When he did, his eyes were heavy with thoughts he never spoke. One day, while collecting wild berries near the edge of the forest, Kiola came across a strange scent in the wind. Sweet. Sharp. Familiar. She followed it and found a small hut nestled beneath the roots of an ancient baobab tree. Smoke curled from the chimney. Strange beads and feathers hung from the doorway. Inside sat an old woman, humming. It was Mama Eni, the village herbalist. Many were afraid of her. They said she spoke to spirits, that her herbs could heal or curse. But Kiola wasn't afraid. Mama Eni looked up and smiled. "Curious feet bring curious hearts," she said. From that day, Kiola visited often. She learned how to grind roots, how to boil leaves until the steam smelled like dreams. She learned which bark cured fever and which flower helped broken hearts. Mama Eni said little, but when she spoke, her words stayed in Kiola's thoughts for days. "Listen to the wind," she once whispered. "It knows more than most men." At 14, Kiola's life changed. Her father began to speak of marriage. "Your beauty is your gift," he told her. "With it, you can bring strong bonds to this village. A warrior's son. A merchant's riches. This is how daughters serve." "But I want to help the sick," Kiola said quietly. "Like Mama Eni." Her father slammed his hand on the table. "You will do as you are told." Kiola's mother, sitting beside her, said nothing. But later, in the quiet of their sleeping hut, she held her daughter close. "Your heart is strong," she whispered. "That is your real beauty." 1 week later, a man came to Naola. He arrived with 2 guards, 5 camels, and gifts wrapped in gold cloth. He wore a robe finer than anyone had ever seen, and his voice was smooth like river stones. "I come on behalf of Prince Zubri of the far-off River Kingdom," he said. "My master has heard of the beauty and kindness of Chief Baruti's daughter. He wishes to take her as his bride. The village gathered to watch. He opened a wooden chest and showed jewelry of silver and blue gems, rare spices that made the air smell like dreams, and bolts of silk that shimmered like starlight. Baruti's eyes gleamed. "This is just his offering," the messenger said. "If the marriage is accepted, more will come." Kiola's heart pounded. She had never seen this prince. Never spoken to him. But her father turned to her with a smile she had not seen in years. "You have brought honor to us," he said. "You will be his queen." That night, Kiola slipped away and ran through the trees. She found Mama Ienai stirring a pot of thick, green paste. The old woman looked up, eyes steady. "You heard," she said. Kiola nodded. "I don't know what to do." Mama Ienai reached into her satchel and pulled out a small talisman, a carved stone circle with a single eye in the center, strung on a black cord. "Wear this always," she said. "It is old. From a time before even my grandmother. It will protect you." "Protect me from what?" Mama Ienai didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "From what hides in beauty." Kiola returned to her family's hut. She slipped the talisman around her neck. The stone was warm, though the night was cold. The days passed quickly. The prince sent more gifts. The village sang songs of marriage. Women taught Kiola dances and painted her hands with red dye. The smell of honey and roasting yam filled the air. But Kiola felt like she was walking through someone else's dream. When she looked into the mirror, she did not see a bride. She saw a girl trying not to drown. On the night before the wedding, her mother came to her. "You still have time to say no," she whispered. "I can't," Kiola said. "Father is proud of me. The village is celebrating. I can't take that away." Her mother touched the talisman around her neck. "Then remember this," she said, "no matter where you go, no matter what you face, you are never alone. The spirits walk with those who walk with truth." Kiola nodded, but inside, her heart was heavy. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled again. Not loud. Just enough to remind her that storms come even when the sky looks calm. The bright silence. The morning sun rose over Naola, lighting the village in gold. But inside Kiola's heart, all was dark. The wedding day had come. Drums played, and women sang joyful songs as they decorated the square. Colorful cloths fluttered from trees, and the smell of roasted goat and sweet plantains filled the air. Children danced in circles while elders gathered near the central fire. Everyone smiled. Everyone except Kiola. She stood still in her wedding robe, her face painted with sacred symbols, her hands trembling under the heavy jewelry gifted by the prince. She had not seen her husband. Not once. A servant of the prince, his name was Boko, spoke to the people in a voice like soft silk. "My master is a great ruler. The affairs of his land are many. He sends his apologies, but duty keeps him in the river kingdom. Soon, he will send his finest guards to take the bride home." "But I have not met him," Kiola said. Boko smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "He sends you this." He opened a box. Inside was a small, framed painting. The man in the painting was tall and noble, with sharp features and a gentle smile. His eyes were dark, and his robe shimmered like water under moonlight. Kiola studied the face. It looked kind. But paintings could lie. She looked up. "Does he have no words for me?" Boko bowed. "He says this, your beauty has reached my ears, but it is your strength that has reached my heart." Kiola said nothing. Her father clapped his hands. "You see, even far away, he is already a wise match." Chief Baruti beamed with pride. The gifts that Boko had brought this time were even more grand. A gold necklace heavy with sapphires. A pair of sandals sewn with silver thread. spices from islands Kiola had only heard about in stories. "This is the honor I dreamed of," her father whispered. "You will be the queen of rivers. You've made our name eternal." Kiola tried to speak. Her mouth opened, then closed. No one would listen anyway. Her mother stood beside her, holding her hand gently. But even her eyes seemed distant now, as though she'd already said everything that could be said. That night, Kiola searched for Mama Eni. She walked to the old hut under the baobab tree. It was empty. The fire was cold. A simple note sat where the old woman usually kept her healing leaves. It was written with charcoal on bark. "The river has called me. Be strong. Trust your truth. Eni." Kiola clutched the note to her chest. She felt something inside her shift, a quiet sadness, like a bird trapped in a cage too small. The wedding happened the next morning, just after sunrise. It was quick. Too quick. The priest from the River Kingdom arrived with scrolls and chants that no one in Naola understood. He read them in a tongue that sounded like wind over still water. Boko stood beside Kiola, answering every question on the prince's behalf. The people cheered. Kiola did not. She barely tasted the wedding feast. Her head felt like it floated above her body. The songs around her sounded far away, like echoes inside a cave. When the time came to say goodbye, she hugged her mother tightly. "Do not forget who you are," her mother whispered. "Your name means blessing. Carry it well." Kiola nodded. But her eyes were full of tears. Her father simply said, "Make us proud." Then the journey began. Kiola was placed on a high-backed carriage shaped like a swan. Silken curtains hung from each side, blocking her view. Horses trotted ahead and behind. Boko sat at the front, speaking little as the carriage moved into the forest. They traveled for 2 days. Kiola barely ate. She watched the trees change, tall acacias replaced by thick palms, soft dry soil becoming damp and mossy. The songs of the birds changed too. Everything was wetter, heavier, quieter. They crossed the river on a bridge made of vines. On the third night, they arrived. The palace was hidden deep in the jungle. Not like the stone houses of Naola, this place looked like it had grown from the earth itself. Walls of smooth black wood carved like waves. Roofs were covered with shining leaves. The air smelled of wet soil and strange flowers. Guards bowed silently as Kiola stepped down. No one spoke. Boko led her into a large room. Silk drapes hung from the ceiling. A white bed sat in the center, surrounded by golden lamps. The floor was cool stone, carved with river patterns. "This is your chamber," Boko said. "Rest now. Your husband will come after moonrise." Then he left. The door closed with a soft thud. Kiola sat alone. The silence was thick. She removed her shoes and stepped carefully around the room. There were no windows. Just tiny holes in the walls where moonlight slipped through. A bowl of fruit sat untouched on a table. The painting of the prince lay on the bed. She picked it up and studied it again. There was something strange in his eyes, some shimmer, like water reflecting something just beneath the surface. She touched the talisman around her neck. It pulsed with warmth. The moon rose higher. Time passed slowly. Kiola sat on the edge of the bed, listening to her own heartbeat. She heard nothing else. No footsteps. No voice. No music. Then, finally, soft movement outside. A rustle. The door creaked open. And in walked a man. He wore a robe of deep green, with patterns like fish scales. He moved smoothly, almost too smoothly, like he was gliding, not walking. His face was hidden in the shadows. "My bride," he said, voice low and echoing slightly. "At last, we are together." Kiola stood. "Let me see your face." He chuckled softly. All in time. She stepped forward. The moonlight caught his cheek. It looked human. But also, not. The skin seemed too smooth. Too perfect. She took another step. Please, she whispered. Let me see you. The prince turned. And moonlight lit his full face. Kiola gasped. His eyes were wide, round, and golden, pupils lit like a snake. His smile was too sharp. His skin shimmered faintly, like scales beneath flesh. She stepped back. You, what are you? He tilted his head. Does it matter? You are my wife now. Kiola shook her head. This is wrong. You are not the man from the painting. No, he said, and his voice had changed. It was colder. Deeper. But the painting served its purpose. Kiola's heart pounded. She turned to run, but the door was already shut. Locked. The prince took a step closer. And as he did, his form shimmered. His skin shifted, becoming darker, greener. His hands stretched. Fingers thinned into claws. His face lengthened. The human mask began to peel away. No, Kiola whispered, backing into the far wall. The prince, no, the thing, smiled again. You belong to me now. She reached for the talisman at her neck. It was burning hot. And suddenly, she remembered Mama Ienai's words. It will protect you from what hides in beauty. The face beneath the mask. Kiola stood frozen against the wall as the figure before her began to change. His body shimmered. The human skin rippled like water, and beneath it, something darker moved, something ancient. His face stretched and narrowed, nose flattening into slits. His mouth widened, revealing rows of sharp, thin teeth. The smooth brown skin transformed into overlapping greenish-black scales, glinting in the pale moonlight like polished stone. And those eyes, those golden eyes, no longer blinked. They stared at her, wide and unblinking, just like a serpent's. Kiola's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't a prince. This wasn't a man. It was a spirit. And it was smiling. You were never meant to see this form, the creature hissed. But you wore the talisman, didn't you? Kiola said nothing. Her hands gripped the necklace tightly, fingers trembling. Your healer knew what I was. That old one, he paused, eyes narrowing. She warned you. He stepped closer. His feet made no sound on the stone floor. With each movement, the air grew colder, as if the room itself feared him. I am not a beast, he said softly. I was once a guardian. A river prince, protector of the people. Until they betrayed me. Kiola's voice barely escaped her lips. What do you want from me? You are the final key, he said. When the curse was cast, the spirits bound my power. Said only a willing bride, pure of soul, could release me. They thought no such woman would ever come. His smile widened, cruel and cold. They were wrong. He reached for her. Kiola acted on instinct. She yanked the talisman from her neck and thrust it forward, pressing it against his hand. The stone glowed, then burned bright. The creature let out a roar of pain. Smoke rose from his palm. He stumbled back, his form flickering, part serpent, part man, part shadow. Kiola didn't wait. She ran. Through the door, down a winding hallway, past silent rooms that seemed carved from the roots of ancient trees. No guards tried to stop her. No voices called out. The entire palace felt like it was holding its breath. Kiola burst through a vine-covered arch and out into the night. The jungle loomed in every direction, but her feet moved without thinking. She ran toward the sound of water. Toward the river. Branches scratched her arms. Roots tried to trip her. The talisman swung wildly from her hand, still hot to the touch. She ran until her lungs ached and her legs trembled. Finally, she collapsed near the riverbank, gasping. The moon shone down through thick trees. The river flowed wide and dark beside her, its surface shimmering with pale light. She leaned forward, cupping water in her hands. The coolness calmed her racing heart. Then she saw them. Markings, carved into the stones at the edge of the water. Symbols she didn't recognize. Spirals, eyes, waves, and a coiled serpent with its tail in its mouth. She touched one gently. The stone paused beneath her fingertips. Then she heard a voice. "Not many find this place," said a woman behind her. "Even fewer survive what you have." Kiola spun around. An old woman stood there, her robes the color of river mud and moss. Her skin was wrinkled like aged bark, and her hair flowed long and silver, braided with shells. Her eyes, deep, dark, and ancient, held both kindness and sorrow. "Who are you?" Kiola whispered. "I am Isok, spirit of the river's memory." Kiola blinked. "A spirit?" Isok nodded. "Long before your people built their homes here, long before the dam stopped the river's song, I walked these waters." She stepped closer. "You are brave, child. And you are not the first." Kiola's voice trembled. "What is he? What does he want?" Isok looked toward the river. "He was once like me. A protector. His name was Ebon. The river prince." Long ago, Isok explained, Ebon had lived in harmony with the villages along the water. He kept floods away, brought fish to feed the people, and whispered to the healers how to cure illness. He loved the people. And they loved him. But then came greed. A new chief rose, one who saw the river as something to control. He built a great dam to hold back the water, to power machines and enrich his village. He ignored the warnings. When Ebon appeared before him, begging him to stop, the chief accused him of being a demon. He tricked Ebon, trapping him with chains blessed by crooked priests, and sealed him beneath the river's deepest stone. Only a woman with pure intent, willing to marry him, could break the chains, Isok said. But each time he awakens, he deceives. He shows beauty, but hides his pain. He traps those he calls brides. Kiola's eyes widened. Others? Isok nodded sadly. 3 before you. They did not escape. They were lost. But, why me? Because you carry both wisdom and sorrow, Isok said. You came close to freeing him. But you resisted. You are the first. Kiola sat in silence, staring at the dark water. She thought of her mother's hands. Of Mama Ienai's soft humming. Of her father's proud face at the wedding. She thought of the serpent's voice. The way it trembled with hurt beneath the anger. Can he be freed without hurting others? She asked. Isok sighed. Yes. But not by lies. Not by force. Only by truth and sacrifice. Kiola stood slowly. The talisman still paused in her palm. What must I do? Isok looked into her eyes. Go deeper, she said. To the place where the river forgets nothing. There, you will find the truth. But be warned, truth is heavier than fear. Kiola looked at the river. It flowed calm now, like it waited. She didn't know what lay ahead. But she knew one thing. She would not run again. The choice of the river. The river was quiet now, too quiet. Kiola stood beside the ancient stone etched with markings that glowed faintly in the moonlight. Her heart was heavy, but her feet were steady. She had made her choice. Isok's words echoed in her mind. To end his curse, you must return, willingly. You must offer a truth no spirit can deny. A truth born of memory and pain. Only then will the river judge. Behind her, the wind rustled through tall grass. Ahead, the river palace waited, hidden in vines and shadow. "I'm not afraid," she whispered. But the talisman in her hand was cold now. Its warmth had faded. This part, she had to do alone. The forest guided her. Not in words, but in signs. A bird with feathers like fire led her down a narrow path. A glowing flower opened when she passed. Even the trees leaned slightly, as if clearing a way. They remembered her kindness, how she'd once tended a broken-winged bat, how she left offerings of fruit when she took back for healing. The spirits of the wild watched her now. Not as a bride. Not as a girl. But as one of their own. And when she stepped once more onto the stones of the river palace, the vines opened to let her through. The palace had changed. It no longer looked grand. The walls were cracked. The golden lamps flickered dimly. The once bright tapestries hung torn and faded. Kiola walked alone through the halls. Then, in the center chamber, beneath a ceiling that rippled like water, she found him. Ebon, the river prince. He stood with his back to her, robe hanging loose around his shoulders. His scales shimmered less now. His form shifted more slowly. Like the energy that sustained him was fading. "I felt you," he said. "The river sang of your return." Kiola stepped closer. "I did not come to free you. And I did not come to fight." He turned to face her. The eyes were still serpent-like, but something else lived in them now. Doubt. "Then why?" he asked. "To understand," she said. He moved around her, circling slowly. "You're not like the others. You resist what is easy. What is offered. You tried to trap me. I gave you a kingdom. You gave me a lie." He paused. The silence stretched between them like a bridge of mist. "I could give you beauty beyond time," he said quietly. "Power. Immortality. You could live in this palace forever. The river would obey your will." Kiola closed her eyes. And when she opened them, her voice was firm. "I don't want to live forever. I want to live true." She stepped forward, holding out her hands. "You want peace? Then take this." He looked at her hands, confused. "There is nothing in them." "Yes," she said. "Only memory. Only truth. Mine. And yours." He looked away. "I have no more use for truth. It broke me." "No," she said gently. "It's what will make you whole." The moonlight flooded through the ceiling, striking the floor in a perfect circle. The light rippled like waves. Kiola stepped into the circle. The air thickened. The ground hummed. Her body grew light, as if it would float away. Ebon hesitated, then followed. The light closed around them. And the trial of the river began. Suddenly, they were no longer in the palace. They stood in water that glowed like silver fire. All around them, voices whispered. Memories. Visions. Ebon's past unfolded like cloth before them. They saw him young, tall, proud, with a crown of river stones. Villagers laughed beside him, offering fish and flowers. He smiled, walking among them like a brother, not a god. Then came the dam. The betrayal. A chief with cruel eyes and a hammer of gold. Priests chanting lies. Chains of fire and ash. The river screamed. Ebon fought. And lost. Kiola felt his pain, sharp, twisting, endless. Not just rage. But grief. He had loved the people. He had only tried to protect them. She wept as the images passed. The curse followed. Each time he awakened, he tried to trust again. But each time, his pain bled through, and he clutched too tightly. He turned love into a trap. Wounds into weapons. Until only vengeance remained. Back in the light, Ebon knelt in the silver water, gasping. Now you see, he said. I did not choose this path. It chose me. No, Kiola said, stepping beside him. You chose not to heal. He looked up at her, eyes glowing with sorrow. I didn't know how. Kiola touched his shoulder. Then let me show you. A current swirled around them. Soft. Warming. The river listened. And the water began to change. It carried not just sorrow, but hope. Her memories flowed into it, her mother's touch, Mama Iani's smile, the joy of helping others, the wonder of learning, the strength to say no. All of it entered the current. Truth. Offered freely. And the river accepted it. The silver light grew bright, so bright Kiola had to close her eyes. When she opened them again, she was back in the palace. But everything was different. Ebon stood in front of her, his form solid but softened. No longer shifting. No longer monstrous. His eyes still glowed gold, but now, they blinked. I feel lighter, he said, his voice shaking. Like the weight is gone. It's not gone, Kiola said. It's changed. Ebon reached for her hand, but gently this time. Thank you, he whispered. Kiola smiled. Thank the river. Outside, the jungle whispered. The vines pulled away from the palace walls. The river sang, not of fear, but of release. The forest spirit sighed in relief. And far, far away, Mama Iani looked up from her fire and nodded. The storm had passed, the river remembers. The moon was high when the final moment came. Kiola stood in the heart of the river palace, her feet bare on the cool stone, the silver light fading softly around her. Across from her, Ebon, the river prince, looked at her one last time. His serpent form was gone. What remained was something else, something human, something spirit, something free. Tears shimmered in his golden eyes. I had forgotten what it felt like to feel, he whispered. Kiola nodded, her voice soft. You remembered. He smiled, a real smile. Not cruel. Not twisted. Just grateful. Then, his form began to dissolve. Not in pain, but in peace. His skin turned to mist. His body to water. A gentle wind rose, carrying his presence away like morning fog touched by the sun. And as he vanished, a whisper lingered in the air. You gave me truth. I give you the river. The room fell silent. But Kiola felt no fear. She closed her eyes, and the water moved around her, not through her body, but her spirit. She understood things now. Things only the river had known. She could feel the pull of deep springs. Hear the laughter of distant waterfalls. Smell the birth of rain in clouds before it ever touched the ground. The river had accepted her. And in return, it had given her everything. She walked out of the palace as dawn broke. The vines parted without a word. Birds chirped in colors she now understood. The trees bowed gently. Even the wind carried her softly, as if recognizing her new form. She was no longer just Kiola, daughter of Boruti. She was something more. A bridge between worlds. A keeper of balance. A voice of the water. The journey home felt shorter. Maybe because the forest no longer blocked her path. Maybe because the river itself guided her footsteps. When she reached the edge of Naola, the village was just waking. Smoke rose from huts. Goats bleated softly. Children stretched sleepily in their doorways. Then someone saw her. Kiola, a voice gasped. Then another. And another. Soon, the whole village gathered, forming a circle around her. Her mother pushed through the crowd, tears already streaming down her face. My daughter. Kiola ran to her, arms wide. They held each other tightly, weeping into each other's shoulders. No words were needed. Her father approached slowly, uncertainty in his eyes. For the first time, he bowed, not from pride, but from respect. "You returned," he said quietly. Kiola met his eyes. "Not as a bride." He nodded. "But as a leader." That evening, a great fire was lit in the village square. Everyone gathered. Kiola stood before them, wearing simple white cloth. No jewels. No crown. Only the talisman, still cracked but glowing faintly around her neck. "I went into the river not knowing what I would become," she said. "Now I return not with riches or titles, but with understanding." She told them everything. About Ebon. About the curse. About the dam their ancestors had built that silenced the river's song. She told them how the spirit still washed. How the river still spoke. And how peace had returned, but only if they kept it. "We must not control the river," she said. "We must walk beside it." Just then, an old familiar laugh rose from the edge of the crowd. Everyone turned. Mama E and I. She was back, smiling, her arms folded. "I knew you would pass," she said proudly. "But even spirits must be tested." Kiola ran to her, hugging her tightly. "You left me," she whispered. "I watched you," Mama E and I replied. "Just from farther away. Even wisdom must grow on its own." Seasons passed. Kiola became the river priestess of Naola. She taught the children how to read clouds and understand the moods of the river. She taught the healers new remedies she had learned from the spirit world. She led ceremonies where offerings of fruit and music were left by the water's edge, not in fear, but in respect. She planted trees along the river banks. She taught farmers to use only what they needed. And she told stories. In time, children gathered at her feet beneath the old baobab tree. They sat with wide eyes as she spoke. "Tell us the one about the snake prince," they cried. And she would smile. But her story was never about monsters. It was about sorrow. And forgiveness. And learning to see truth even in what once scared you. She'd say, "He wasn't evil. Just forgotten." And when we forget our rivers, our stories, our spirits, we lose part of ourselves. Sometimes, at night, she would walk to the river alone. Sit by the same carved stones. Close her eyes. And listen. The river still whispered. And sometimes, just barely, it whispered her name. Kaiololo. She would smile softly. "I'm still here," she'd say. When she grew older, her hair turned white like river foam. Her steps slowed. But her voice never lost its strength. Even when she could no longer walk far, children still came to her hut to listen. One day, she handed the talisman to a young girl named Naima, a curious, bright-eyed child who loved the wind and talked to birds. "This is yours now," Kiola said. Naima gasped. "But it's yours." "Not anymore," she said. "The river has many voices. It's time the world heard yours." And when Kiola finally returned to the river one last time, it was not out of fear. She walked into the water as if going home. No one saw her body again. But the village knew. They say that night, the river shimmered gold beneath the stars. That a great snake was seen swimming peacefully near the bend, not in silence, but humming a soft tune. And in the ripples, some claimed they heard her laughter.